Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Bull Take Scouting Podcast. Today, we're going to break down our preseason top 20 big board for the upcoming NFL draft in 2022. So this has really involved the whole summer of scouting some of these top guys that are receiving the most buzz. We probably got around 35, 40 guys plus a wealth of quarterbacks, as we've already broken down in a previous episode. So, Alex, without further ado, would you like to unveil our respective big boards?
Yep, so here we go. This is our 1 through 10. So I'm on the left, Kosta's on the right. For those of you tuning into Apple Podcasts or Spotify, I'll just read through my rankings really quickly. So I have Derek Stingley, 1, Kayvon Thibodeau, 2, Spencer Rattler, 3, Sam Howell, 4, Evan Neal, 5, Christian Harris, 6, Jalen Weidermeyer, 7, Kyle Hamilton, 8, Traylon Burks, 9, and Kenyon Green, 10. And Costa, if you just want to read yours off really quickly.
Yep, I have actually Thibodeau first, Stingley second, Rattler and Howell following that, then Neal at 5, Harris at 6, Weidermeyer at 7, Hamilton at 8, Kenyon Green at 9, and Traylon Burks at 10. So pretty similar, but we've got a different guy at the top. So, Alex, what made you put Stingley at the top spot for you?
So, in my opinion, really, Stingley and Thibodeau are really close. I think they're both easily the two best prospects in the draft currently. Rattler and Howell might have something to say about that at the end of the season. Right now, I just think there were some little things in Thibodeau's game that I would like to see improved upon a little bit more. And in all honesty, I did not see a flaw in Stingley's game. That's pretty much near perfect film from a cornerback. I'm going to say he's the best cornerback I've ever scouted. Just near perfect film. The ball skills, the ability to run with receivers, flip his hips and turn. He's so fluid, nice and long. Everything you want to see in a cornerback, Stingley has. So to me, he was the best cornerback on the board. But I can completely understand why you have Thibodeau first.
Yeah, for me, it's pretty much 1A, 1B like it is for you, just the other way around. And I think it came down to positional value for me. And I just think that in the NFL, it's commonplace to value the edge rusher over the cornerback, even if they're really the two most important positions on the defense. And Stingley can definitely lock down on an island in the NFL, and that's extremely valuable. But when I look at Thibodeau and I see a pass rusher with that combination of strength, burst, bend around the edge, but also great pass rush moves and high level of intelligence and awareness when he plays on the football field, I've got to put him in my top spot. And then next we have our quarterbacks, Spencer Rattler and Sam Howell. And we already broke them down in our quarterback episode. So if anyone wants to see a more in-depth breakdown of those players along with the rest of the quarterbacks in this upcoming class, you can head on our YouTube and find that one. But I think they slot over here, and that shows just how high I am and you as well are on them, because they're just already at this point in their career very refined, talented quarterbacks, and they've got a full season left ahead of them to convince people that they should be in contention for the first overall pick, really.
Yeah, I mean, both of them really impressive film. We won't talk about it too much. Obviously, like you said, the quarterback breakdown. So if you want full in-depth, listen to that. We'll just give a few things on Rattler and a few things on Howell. I think that for me, what puts Rattler above Howell, his athletic ability, his ability to improvise and make plays off schedule. Both really good prospects. Howell a little more accurate than Spencer Rattler. He is not as athletic, although he is pretty good athletically, and sometimes his internal clock needs to be sped up. Holds onto the ball a little bit too long, struggles with pressure a little bit, but those things are just going to come with experience. So the bottom line for these two, both really good quarterback prospects.
Yeah, and our next guy on the list is Evan Neal, and man, this is an absolute mammoth of an offensive tackle. At 6'8", 360 pounds, he will overpower anyone he's going up against, and that lets him dominate in the run game. But what's incredible is how he moves at that insane size. It is really just freakish, the athleticism he possesses, the ability to get depth on his pass sets, really slide laterally with good agility. At that size is just, I don't even think there's anyone in the NFL with that combination of size and athleticism. Day one in the NFL, he will have the best combination in terms of just that pure physical combination of traits. and his play is very good too. I see a couple issues in his game where, for example, he sometimes doesn't really clear the correct running lane. He'll kind of push the running back into blockers, and then he has some balance issues sometimes too. And so I look for him to correct those things. But if he were to move to left tackle this season, as he's slated to do, and perform at an extremely high level, he could even be higher than this because his skill set and that combination of size and athleticism is just extremely rare in the NFL.
Yeah, and I mean, I mentioned him as a potential first overall pick. Not that I think that would happen, but that's because of his skill set, the position he plays, and you never know what happens to the team at the top if they already have a quarterback that they really fall in love with. So that just shows you how good Evan Neal is. I think, you're really touching on everything. The size and athleticism is really the key with him, and he's fairly technically refined too. He's got another season to further improve on that. The one other thing that I'd like to point out really quickly with him is sometimes, blocking at the second level, he just struggles to stop when he needs to, and he might run past a linebacker. Again, someone that is that big, it's hard to stop on a dime like you have to blocking the same level. I think as he plays more, he'll learn how to use his body the correct way. And all right, I have to do this to stop to get this guy if he's going this way. A bunch of technical things that are just going to come with experience, like most of these guys at the top. But I think we can move on to the next player, also from Alabama, Christian Harris. And he's a guy that, I really loved when I watched him the first time, wrote up a scouting report, and obviously you do as well. We both have him at 6. He's extremely impressive because of his athletic ability, his ability in coverage. And that ability in coverage comes from playing safety all throughout his high school career. So if you don't know, Christian Harris started his first game ever at linebacker in his first ever game at Alabama as a true freshman, and he took the job and ran. So it's been 2 years so far. His whole life playing linebacker, he's already a top 6 prospect. That pretty much says it all. I mean, to play 2 years out of position and be considered the top player at that position in the draft class, it's just crazy. And he has so much growth potential, and he already shows so much on film.
Yeah, when you watch him on film, you really don't think that he's only been playing the linebacker position for 2 years. I love his ability in man coverage, just to have that kind of fluidity and athleticism to cover both running backs and tight ends, because he can definitely hold up with tight ends physically as well, is extremely valuable. He's got sideline to sideline range against the run, and his blitzing potential is really high. It's kind of raw right now because he doesn't really have the technique down to be able to beat a blocker with his hands, but if you can teach that to him too, wow, you have a really elite next level linebacker. So I think Christian Harris is going to have an incredible year, and he's going to go really high in the upcoming NFL draft. And the next guy in our top 20 at number 7, so higher than some people have him, is Jalen Weidermeyer. I love Weidermeyer. I think he is an ideal candidate for Kyle Pitts-like rise ahead of the 2022 NFL draft. I love I like his blocking ability more than you do. I think he's got good athleticism. He gets good arm extension, solid technique right now. He can get better, but I think it's already at a good level. And then after that, he's a matchup nightmare in the receiving game. He's too fast for linebackers. He's too big for defensive backs. You see flashes of really good route running where the suddenness and the quickness for a guy of his size is extremely rare, but he can dominate at the catch point. He can beat you with that crisp route running. There's just so many ways to use him, and I think he's going to make an offensive coordinator extremely happy at the next level, where he can be kind of a Darren Waller type receiving threat.
Yeah, I think Darren Waller is a great comparison for him. And this is the second year in a row, right now at least, where our highest pass catcher is a tight end and not a wide receiver. Yeah. And that's because they really run routes like a wide receiver. Talking about Kyle Pitts last year and Weidermeyer this year, they run routes like they're a receiver. They're both had great route running, but then they possess, like you said, that matchup nightmare with how big and how tall Weidermeyer is. He's a great threat in the red zone. Any contested catch, he pretty much takes down. He's another extremely impressive prospect. And now we'll move on to Kyle Hamilton, the safety.
Yeah, Kyle Hamilton is a guy that I really like. He's got great height at 6'4", but also very quick, sudden, athletic. So he can really also go sideline to sideline in the run game. I think there are a couple issues in his game where he might not really be the guy who's going to get a lot of interceptions. He's not as much of a ball hawk as some other safeties are. But overall, he's got a great package of physical and athletic skills. He also has some man coverage value, and he can really be a Pro Bowl level safety in the NFL.
Excuse me, I just had to clear my throat there. Yeah, Kyle Hamilton, probably one of the best safety prospects in the past few years, I'd say. Maybe Jamal Adams might have been better than that,
Oh
but
yeah, I think Adams was better, but he's quality too.
going back to Jamal Adams, he's the best safety prospect that I've watched, and I love his physicality. Really, everybody on that Notre Dame defense showed a ton of physicality. Watching that tape with JOK and obviously Hamilton, they love to hit guys. They're always looking for big hits, never afraid to tackle, and they're all very sound tacklers. So that's kind of the number one thing that I like to see in safeties, other than their coverage ability, is they're willing to tackle and they're good tacklers, because the safety is that last line of defense. So I think we can move on now to our ninth and 10th ranked guys. So we have the same guys, just flip-flopped. So I have Burks and then Kenyon Green at 10. So I'll talk about Burks a little bit. So talking about another good route runner with great size and ability to turn 50-50 balls into 70-30 balls. I mean, Burks is 6'3", 220 pounds, and he runs faster than his size, and his route running really good. He creates a ton of separation. But the biggest thing that separates Burks from most of these other top wide receivers in the class is his physicality at the catch point and after the catch. He can break a ton of tackles. He shows great athleticism to juke out defenders and be able to make guys miss. So he really is the whole package when you're looking at a wide receiver. So he's a really impressive prospect from a school that you don't see a lot of top end NFL draft talent from.
Yeah, we're not the biggest fans of player comps because often they're really a stretch, and there's a lot of guys who don't really have a direct fit in the NFL. But I see a lot of AJ Brown and Treylon Burks, and I know that's high praise, but they were both primarily used as slot receivers in college football, but really possess the size and the ball skills at the catch point to dominate on the perimeter too. So you're going to get a guy at the next level who has this experience lining up in the slot and presenting that size advantage over a nickel, but he can also go on the boundary and wreak havoc too. And I love the quickness and the suddenness he has at that size. I really like his ability after the catch. He's got good vision, good fluidity to get into upfield movement, and I like his contact balance as well. So the only thing that made me put Kenyon Green over him is that I think that there's a little bit of projection in Burks' game. I'd like to see him be played on the boundary more. I really don't understand why Arkansas limits him to the slot so often. I really hope that in 2021 he's put on the boundary more often and truly unleashed, because he can easily be the top wide receiver in college football. But Kenyon Green is just a guy that I think is one of the very safest prospects in this upcoming 2022 NFL draft class. He's just a quality guard, checks all the boxes. He's going to give you really solid play from day one in the NFL, and he can even be a Pro Bowler in this league.
Yeah, I think, like you said, he's really safe. What you see on tape is exactly what you're going to get in the NFL. He's not a guy that really has many weaknesses. The one thing I'll point out is he does seem to stand up a little high at times and lose some of his power. But I mean, other than that, he moves really well. Obviously, he's an offensive guard. He can get to the second level, block linebackers well, clear out running lanes. Definitely a very solid all-around interior offensive line prospect. So we have him pretty high for an interior offensive line prospect, but that really shows you how highly we think of a guy like Kenyon Green.
Yep, and now it's time to move on to the back half of our top 20, 11 through 20. And so Alex is going to pop that on the screen now, and we'll read out the names for those of you who are listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
Let me just pull this up, and here we go. So I'll read off my 11 through 20. So Kaiir Elam at 11, John Mechie the third at 12, Garrett Wilson, George Karlaftis, Chris Olave, 13, 14, 15. And then Breece Hall, Myjai Sanders, DeMarvin Leal, Carson Strong, and Ahmad Garner at 20.
Yeah, I've got a lot of the same names, but some different order. I got Garrett Wilson at 11, John Mechie at 12, Kyer Elam, followed by Chris Olave at 13 and 14. Then a pair of Cincinnati Bearcats in Ahmad Gardner and Jay Sanders at 15 16. Then Brees Hall, Keaton Slovis, Carson Strong, and George Karlaftis to round out the top 20. So, Alex, what made you go with Kyer Elam ahead of the rest of the guys in this next tier?
So first of all, Kyrie Elam is really solid all around. Besides one thing, I think his deep speed is a little bit lacking. But really, other than that, I really liked what I saw from him. I thought does a really good ability of running with receivers, flipping his hips. He shows great athleticism. Another guy with great length, and I love seeing the ability to reach his arm all the way around the wide receiver and knock the ball down without creating very much contact at all. And that's a huge thing that will translate to the NFL level, and it will help prevent flags. So the arm length is a great thing to see, and he's also a very good tackler, which I like to see from cornerbacks as well. So everything besides that deep speed, I really like from him. But I think because of his talent, he might be able to mask that deep speed a little bit.
Yeah, on top of the questionable deep speed, I thought he was a little too shy in run support. But overall, he's definitely a very good talent, great height, length, ability to flip his hips and stay in phase, good quickness too. So really in the first 15-ish yards, you're getting a really strong glue guy, and he excels in press coverage as well. I just have a couple wide receivers ahead of him. Garrett Wilson from Ohio State is the first of the two. I really like Wilson. He's so quick, so sudden, and he's got great route running. So he knows how to set up defensive backs really well, and he wins with that route running that is so elite because of the athletic skills he possesses. He's not a burner, and he's not really going to be a contested catch guy at the next level. So that really seriously limits him. We're not talking about a guy who has the upside to be a top 5, maybe not even top 10 wide receiver in the NFL. But I think he's going to be really good, really reliable out of the slot. He's going to give you a lot of good plays with that route running. So that's why I've got him ahead of Elam. And the other guy is John Mechie, but I'll let you talk about Garrett Wilson first.
Yeah, so I mean, I pretty much agree with everything you said about Wilson. I'm not going to really repeat it. To me, the projection of the NFL, like you said, more of a slot guy, I'd say. He lacks that great physicality after the catch, and also the physicality in like 50-50 balls and stuff like that. So I don't see him as a true number one receiver. He's still very talented athletically. He's quick. He's sudden, like you said. So he's definitely going to be able to create separation with his routes and stuff like that from the slot. But just the fact that I don't think he'll be a true number one receiver in the league is why I kind of don't have him as my wide receiver one.
Do you think John Mechie can be?
I think Mechie has a little bit more potential to be wide receiver one. I think he's faster than Wilson. I think he runs routes a little bit better than Wilson. So that is why I have him one spot ahead. But, that could change easily depending on the season that the both of them have in 2022.
Yep, I've got John Mechie right behind Garrett Wilson and right in front of Kyer Elam. I really like Mechie, and I think he's going to explode this year now that Jalen Waddle and Devontae Smith are gone, and he's really going to be the wide receiver one in the Alabama offense, and that usually ends up being a very good thing. I really like how quick he is, how sudden he is, the routes he runs, and he's also just not going to be a jump ball guy, which limits him, but very similar talent to Garrett Wilson and really a similar play style too. And so the guy I have at number 14 is once again a pretty similar profile at wide receiver. It's Garrett Wilson's teammate from Ohio State, Chris Olave. I really like Olave. I think he's got good ability to run routes and set up defensive backs, and he's got enough deep speed to threaten vertically, which is I think he has better speed than Burks, Wilson, and Mechie. I see some inconsistencies in Olave's suddenness. Sometimes his routes are more they're more fluid than explosive, and I just don't see. And he's also very thin. You're not really going to get anything after the catch. I think he has just a little more physical and athletic limitations than Wilson and Mechie, which is why I put him behind them. But he's a pretty similar guy where he's going to be coming out of the slot in the NFL, running good routes, sure hands, but not going to be dominating the boundary with skill at the catch point.
Yeah, so touching on Olave's routes a little more, what I had written down is his routes are more rounded than crisp sometimes. Yeah. So a lot of guys you'll see put their foot in the ground, turn the other direction. Olave, it's more of a nice turn, making a nice, rounded corner instead of what I like to see of put your foot in the ground, plant it, go the other way, don't really lose a lot of speed. So that's the biggest thing with Olave, along with, like you said, his ability after the catch. He's smaller. I think he's, like you said, really quick, accelerates really well. And I think he's got good hands, and he runs a decent route tree. He might not make the nicest cuts, but he shows good variety in the amount of routes that he runs. I think he'll, again, fit really well as an NFL slot receiver, and he'll probably hit the ground running like most of these wide receivers that we've talked about so far.
Yeah, and so my next guy, you actually had someone ahead of Olave at number 14. You had George Karlaftis. I have him down at 20 because I like his ability to show strength at the point of attack and his a good variety of pass rush moves. He's got a good arsenal there, but I just think he has a lot of athletic limitations, and he could be a little better in the run game. He doesn't really bend or around the edge, doesn't have special bursts, so I think he can be a solid defensive end at the next level. I just don't see that much upside, which is why I have him down at 20. But how come you have him so high at 14?
So I really love his strength, his power, and his wide variety of pass rush moves. I feel like, yes, he's not the best athletically. He struggles bend around the edge a little bit, but I think he's very versatile. He doesn't necessarily have to play all the way outside. He can probably play head up on a tackle. And I'm going to argue that he is so strong and so powerful that he can beat those guys with bull rush sometimes. And he's a guy that I could see. You put him on the edge one play, you move him inside to a 3-tech the next. He showed that at Purdue. So I think the versatility, the strength, the power, obviously the athletic limitations are there, and those aren't things that are going to go away. But I really feel, comfortable with how he'll be able to produce because of his other things, like his technique, all the wide variety of pass rush moves that he already has. You don't see that from too many guys at the level that he is. 2 years in college, he's got another year to build on those, and he's got great strength, great power. So I really like him as a prospect outside of those athletic concerns, but I'm willing to look past those because of all the other things he brings to the table.
Yeah, and to move on, at 15 and 16, I've got a pair of Cincinnati Bearcats, as I mentioned before. Ahmad Gardner is the one I have first. Gardner is really impressive in that he's so tall, so long, yet he can flip his hips really well and has good quickness and agility. So in the first 10 yards, you're getting a really good press corner. My biggest concern with him is really he's extremely thin. I need to see him pack on some muscle to be able to take down a bigger ball carrier in run support. And not get moved sometimes. It's not that he's weak, but he could definitely use more bulk. And then there's a question of, will that affect his athleticism or not? I also think he has a little bit of a questionable deep speed, like Elam, where it's good quickness, good agility, but then he can get a step or two behind it deep. But he does have really good length and really good acceleration to be able to recover when that happens. I just think he needs to brush up some finer aspects of his game and add some bulk. And then the next guy is Myjai Sanders, from a defensive end from Cincinnati. He's ahead of some guys that you're seeing pretty high, like Karlaftis, like Drake Jackson. But at the edge rusher position, I really like Sanders, though. I think he's got great athleticism, great agility. He can beat a blocker's inside shoulder or their outside shoulder, and there's a lot of promise there for me.
Yeah, I'll touch on Ahmad Gardner first. So I think the biggest thing for Gardner is his length. I mean, he's 6'3", he's super long, but like this, you said, he's really thin, and that concerns me a little bit. He definitely has to bulk up to play at the NFL successfully, in my opinion. And the other thing is, like you said, the deep speed kind of concerns me because he gets beat and he shows the ability to recover because his stride is so long, and he can, recover really well, but my concern is, will he be able to recover as well as he does in college in the NFL? And sometimes I've seen him getting beat on even shorter routes, just because I don't know if it's, he doesn't read the receiver well or he anticipates the route incorrectly. And he recovers on most of those as well, but I'm just concerned about, with better route runners, quicker wide receivers in the NFL, will he be able to recover as well as he does currently?
Yep, and then Myjai Sanders.
Oh, yeah. So I'm going to agree with pretty much everything you said about Sanders. Athletically, he's very good, but he also has that power, that ability to convert speed to power very well. You see him beat tackles just by exploding off the ball, and then once he engages with them, he can stand him up, drive him backwards. He's a little bit smaller, so sometimes I see him get locked up in a hand fight with some offensive tackles and struggle to get them off. He shows a great ability to swipe the offensive lineman's hands before they get latched onto him, but I kind of struggle to see him break the hands off once they are latched onto him. But I think he's a great talent. Definitely, both of us are probably higher on him than most other scouts. So he's the two guys from Cincinnati are both very impressive, especially for an AAC school.
Yep, and you actually have a running back from Iowa State, Brees Hall, ahead of both of them, and he's the next guy on my list. I really like Hall. He's so well-rounded. He's got good burst, good size, good contact balance, good vision, good athleticism, a good ability to bounce a run to the outside, good receiving ability. He just doesn't really have a special trait, and I'm kind of worried about how much mileage he's going to have on his tires when he comes out. That meaning that he's going to have a lot of carries under his belt before he gets to the NFL, and we know running backs don't have that long of a shelf life, but I think he can be a quality running back in the NFL.
Yep, Brees Hall, very patient, very fluid. He finds his holes really well, great vision. He's an impressive blocker, too, for a running back in college. Most of those guys don't get a lot of coaching. But like you said, the tread on the tires is a bit of a concern. He's got, I think, right around 500 touches right now, and he's probably looking to add another 3 this year, or 300. So 800 coming out a little high, but I mean he's a really solid back. Not a star at anything, but very good at everything.
Yep, and after that, I've got 2 quarterbacks, Keaton Slovis and Carson Strong. This was kind of an interesting comparison to some of the other guys I could slot in there, and I just started really thinking, these guys are quarterbacks, and they're already at a pretty good level. There's still a step forward they both need to take. For Slovitz, it's more of returning to his 2019 form. But I was like, I'll definitely bank on the talent that they've already shown and their upside to be franchise quarterbacks at the next level, so I can slot them in here. You didn't have Slovis in there, but you do have Carson Strong. And then you have one more player at 18 that I don't have on my list that we can talk about.
Yeah, so I have DeMarvin Leal, the defensive tackle from Texas A&M, at 18, one spot ahead of Strong. To me, he's really solid all around. I think he's very versatile along the defensive line, which is something that I really like and appreciate. I love a guy that can, play nose one play and then be bumped out to a 3 tech the next. And there were even, I think I saw maybe 2 or 3 plays where they did have him as the defensive end. So the versatility to me is very, very key. I don't think he'll be a top 5 defensive tackle, but I think he'll definitely be a very good starter at the next level. And the versatility to me is why I have him in my top 20. And just to touch on Strong a little bit, I mean, we talked about quarterbacks a lot, but he's got a great arm. And that's really why I had him above Slovis and have him at the end of my top 20. The arm strength, the arm talent, the gunslinger mentality for Strong.
Yeah, I'm actually a lot lower on Leal than you are. I just think that versatility won't translate to the next level, and he'll be more of a tweener. I don't think he has a true position in the NFL, because I don't think that he has the pure pass rush ability, neither in terms of ability to bend around the edge and have good burst upfield, or to win with pass rush moves. And I don't think he can survive full-time inside, or he's just not big enough or stout enough. So for me, I have a murkier projection to the NFL for DeMarvin Leal. But that wraps up our top 20. It's been a fun summer of scouting these guys and offering you all the scouting reports. And now we're going to get into the season, and it's really going to be exciting to see how this is going to compare to our big boards in April, which will look a whole lot different with a whole season of play left.
Yeah, totally. And we'll wrap this up, but it'll be interesting to look back on our top 20 and see where guys fell to, which guys rose, and which guys we didn't even have on here that move into our top 20. So thanks everyone for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll be back with another episode soon.